So what I'll do now is we'll apply that to the change order and just right-click and say New Change Order. And when I do that, the template automatically comes up and it's ready for me to start entering in information. At the top here, I had the default set to ERO. Well, this is going to be an engineering change order. There's an existing file that's already been released, so we're going to implement a change order process. So I'll click on this and I'll change that to ECO, and it's going to automatically index the numbering system for me. And you can standardize that however you want it. If you want to pick up where your current change order process is left off, you can certainly configure that in the back end if you want to. So we're going to enter some information in here. And this is the tall clamp assembly we're dealing with here. And I'm going to insert some instructions here for the individual that needs to make the change. So we're just going to say update the bill of material and add a service kit. We're going to add a Word document to the item here. There's a specification document that we want to be related to the item. And we also want to include how this thing goes together. So we want to place some assembly instructions. So again, this is where I'm conveying what needs to happen to the change order. Now the next thing for me to do is to set a due date. We're just going to set that as being today, but I can pull down and I can certainly do that however I want. We'll say we want this to be due today. And now I want to come down here and I'm just going to fill out the information in my property section. So we'll say it's an engineering change. Now we're just adding information to the item, so we're not changing any geometry. So there's no reason for us to implement a cost. There's going to be no impact on inventory since we're just, again, putting documentation on here. There's no tooling change since it's not a geometry change to the assembly. And we're going to say the requested source for this came from production. We can fill out a class type based on the cost of the change, etc. And what's the priority level? Well, since we're going to do this today, I'll say that it's urgent. And again, down here at the bottom, if there was any vendor information or customer information, I could enter that in. You can also place some notes that might be related to this change order as well. I'm going to save this here in a second. Okay, so now it's saved. And we'll look at the item, and this is the item. That's the clamp assembly that we're going to be modifying. Now in the file section, I want to make it a little easier for the individual making the change to this particular document, and I want to include all the documentation in the change order. You notice even though I selected the particular item, which was the assembly, the drawing automatically came in for me. I'm not going to highlight that, but if I did, I would be shown all the drawing markups tools that are available for that, and I could apply some sort of markup. In this case, I just want to attach some documentation that is out there inside my vault. So we've got a specification document we want to attach to this, and we also have a assembly instruction, and I'm going to actually take both of these. So we've got a Windows media file and we have a DWF, and both of those are going to show me the animation that's involved to putting this assembly together. I'll say OK to that, and now they're all included in my file section. We'll go to my routing, and you can see I've got a predefined routing. In this case, I'm going to customize it again, and I want to be the only individual that's responsible for this change. So I can have templates that I can immediately choose if I want to, or I can go ahead and customize those templates to further apply some sort of change based on a condition here. So my routing has been changed, and you can see we're currently in the create state. So I'll hit save to this, and we're going to move this into the open state. So now that's moved from the create into the open state. And if I hit refresh, actually it happened pretty quick, but if I hit refresh, I'm notified down here at the bottom that a new change order has come through. Here's the new ECO, and let's go take a look at that. You can see it's in the open state. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this real quick. And what we want to do is we can't edit this in the release state, so I want to change it to work in progress. And now that's going to allow me to make the change to this document. I'm also going to move this into the work state, and that's the area that I want to make the change. So if I want to edit the item, I don't have to go find it or figure out where it's located. I just come in here and I do an edit. And now we physically want to make a change and add that documentation. So there's a little attach button up here. And now we'll go add those two documents that we actually added to the change order a second ago. So we have the assembly instructions, and we also have that specification as well. Now what's interesting about this is Vault Manufacturing has a web client that's related to the installation. Now that I've attached these documentations to the item, anybody using that web client would also be able to view these related pieces of documentation. So production does not have very fast machines. They can log in with the web client, and they can click on this animation if they want to. Well, let me just show you what that looks like. Oops, I forgot. Videos don't play over GoTo. So let me show you the DWF file, which actually shows you the same thing. Now you'll see it pop through pretty fast. Hopefully it looks like it's a little jittery on your end, but it's showing you how this particular assembly goes together and what the steps are involved in that process. So from production, I'm able to come through here and look at this DWF file, and I know exactly what the steps are involved to putting it together. I might know where Loctite needs to be applied, how much torque I need to apply to specific screws. All that information can be conveyed through this DWF file. We'll close that. So now I've made that change. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to modify the bill of materials. So I actually want to add one item to the bill of material. We want to add that cable tie kit that we were talking about earlier. Well, I come in here and I edit the bill of material, and I'm going to add a new row. And I don't know what the part number is, so I'm just going to type in a description. You can see here it shows me the part number and the document I want to add. And down here at the bottom is that new service kit. And we're going to add two of those to this change order. And I can save that if I want to. So we'll do a save and close. So now I've committed the changes to that change order. The next thing for me to do would be to move this from the work to review state. So I've made my changes. If there were any individuals that needed to approve, by moving this and responding and submitting it, they would now be notified to do a review. And I'll just put in there a little note for them and say okay to that. So again, by hitting refresh, you get that notification down here at the bottom. I would have also received an email within my Microsoft Outlook system, and I'm going to show you that email in a second. So now I need to know, okay, what's going on with this? I'm going to look at the item, and you can see it's still work in progress. But if I open this item and go to the bill of materials, I may not know what's happened. So I want to run a comparison. So we're going to go ahead and compare this to Rev A. And I'll just hit the compare button. And down here at the bottom, you see row exists in Rev B, but it did not exist in Rev A. If anything had been physically removed from the bill of materials, I would have seen a red strike through the entire line, seeing that that particular item existed in a previous revision, but it does not exist in a current revision. So I'm okay with that. I'll just close that. And now that I've approved it, all I have to do is respond. Excuse me. So down here at the bottom, I've got my commands to approve it or reject it. Well, in this case, we'll hit approve, say okay to that, and now it's currently sitting in the approved state. Now the item is still currently work in progress. So like we saw in the electrical project, by me moving this from approved and setting the effectivity, it's automatically going to release this file. So we'll set the effectivity, say okay. This is just the item that was affected, and now when I say okay to that, it's now in the close state. And like we saw in the engineering change order process for the electrical project, when I hit refresh, now that it's closed, it's been removed from my work list. And all the engineering change orders that are currently finished no longer show up in that work list. Now there's some reporting that I can do with the system to see what types of change orders are going on, what their status is. I'm going to show you that real quick. We're approaching our time limit here. So